Friday, April 26. Further thought. From The Great Controversy, page 103, we read, God permitted great light to shine upon the minds of those chosen men, revealing to them many of the errors of Rome, but they did not receive all the light that was to be given to the world. Through these, his servants, God was leading the people out of darkness of Romanism, but there were many and great obstacles for them to meet, and he led them on step by step as they could bear it. They were not prepared to receive all the light at once. Like the full glory of the noontide sun to those who have long dwelt in darkness, it would, if presented, have caused them to turn away. Therefore, he revealed it to the leaders little by little as it could be received by the people. From century to century, other faithful workers were to follow, to lead the people on still further in the path of reform. And then, on pages 105 and 106, in another letter to a priest who had become a disciple of the gospel, Huss spoke with deep humility of his own errors, accusing himself of having felt pleasure in wearing rich apparel and of having wasted hours in frivolous occupations. He then added these touching admonitions. May the glory of God and the salvation of souls occupy thy mind, and not the possession of benefices and estates. Beware of adorning thy house more than thy soul, and above all, give thy care to the spiritual edifice. Be pious and humble with the poor, and consume not thy substance in feasting. Shouldst thou not amend thy life and refrain from superfluities, I fear that thou wilt be severely chastened, as I am myself. End of quote. And that brings us to our 4 discussion questions for this week. 1. What is progressive light? Why does God reveal truth gradually? How do these principles apply to God's church today? 2. How do new discoveries of truth relate to previous truths that God's people have understood? Why must new light never contradict old light? 3. No matter where you live, your culture is going to promote values, ideas, and moral codes that in some way conflict with what the Bible teaches. After identifying these areas of conflict, how do you see yourself and us as a church dealing with these challenges? How do we remain good citizens while at the same time not succumbing to whatever warped values our culture proclaims? And 4. How does John Huss's letter impact your thinking today? What impresses you about this letter? And now it's time for Inside Story with Sibylla Harrold. Thank you, Sibylla.
Tale of Two Neighbours by Andrew McChesney. Musa's religion taught that it was wrong to raise pigs for sale, but Musa worked as a pig farmer. Niklanaga's religion taught that it is wrong to divorce for any reason except sexual immorality, but Niklanaga married 3 times and on top of that had 3 common-law wives at different times. The 2 men who were neighbours lived lives that were far from their professed religious beliefs. But God had a plan for them in Mozambique. One day, one of Musa's pigs entered Niklanaga's vegetable garden and caused considerable damage. Niklanaga was furious and demanded a fist fight. He won the brawl, and Musa limped away bloodied and battered. But Musa did not intend to give up. He vowed revenge through witchcraft. You have 30 days to prepare for your death, he told Niklanaga. The next day, Niklanaga woke up seriously ill. He spoke about Musa's threat to his friends from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, where he had once worshipped. As Niklanaga's condition steadily deteriorated, he grew worried. After 15 days, he asked church members to pray for him, and the pastor organised a prayer team to visit his house. But Niklanaga did not get better. Another week passed, and his options seemed few. With the clock ticking down on Musa's 30-day deadline, the pastor called for a night of fasting and prayer for Niklanaga. Early the next morning, Musa knocked on the door of the pastor's house. He told a fantastic story about his gods had fought with Nicaragla's God, and Nicaragla's God had won. He said he could no longer take Nicaragla's life. He wanted to become a Christian. "I want to worship Nicaragla's God," he said. Nicaragla recovered from his illness, and both he and Musa joined an Adventist baptismal class. Both gave their hearts to Jesus in baptism. Today, both are powerful forces for good in their region of Mozambique. "God is powerful, and he answers the prayers of those who seek him in faith," said Nelson Aquinesi, the pastor. "After all," he said, "without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him." That verse is found in Hebrews 11, verse 6, in the New King James Version. Thank you for your Sabbath School mission offerings that help spread the gospel in Mozambique and around the world.
This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.